Today we're going to talk about 10 things you should know that are important for keeping cherry shrimp successfully. This video is going to be a general care guide full of information. I'm also going to give an important bonus thing to know at the end on how you can choose the best shrimp possible. Starting off with number 10 is feed well but feed little. What you feed your shrimp is very important and it directly impacts their health. Now there's a lot of things that people feed to their shrimp. Some of the most common ones are pellets and algae wafers. Now these foods are really easy to use. All you gotta do is just drop it in and those foods will sink to the bottom of the tank where the shrimp are able to go in there and eat them. If you're trying to breed shrimp or you're trying to get them to really color up, I would recommend frozen foods like frozen bloodworms, as these foods will really help in getting them healthy and active. Something else that I do is to feed them boiled eggs. Eggs are a fantastic nutritional source for shrimp, whether it's the yolk or the white, and they really enjoy eating it. It's also really cool seeing them eat the egg yolk and the little particles just drifting out. Finally, red cherry shrimp are great algae eaters. If you have a tank that's got lots of algae, you're looking for a cleanup crew that could help eat up all the algae in the tank, red cherry shrimp are a great choice. As for the general amount to feed, if you're not trying to condition the shrimp to breed, I would not recommend feeding them a lot. Now the reason for this is that cherry shrimp can go many days, even weeks without foods if they're adults. These shrimp are able to eat a lot of the decaying plant matter and leftover foods that just sink to the bottom of the tank. Even if you don't feed them, they're always going to be able to find food in the tank. These shrimp are some of the best scavengers. You'll notice that they spend most of the time at the bottom just constantly looking for food, whether it's algae, plant matter, biofilm. The point is that they're almost never really hungry. And when you feed them, you don't have to feed them large amounts. Feeding these shrimp a little at a time is more than enough to keep them full and happy. Number 9 is to choose good tank mates. Tank mates are very important for these shrimp as they don't get very large and there are some fish that are not compatible with these guys. So some tank mates you could keep them with are nanofish and other peaceful shrimp, as well as live bearers like guppies, platies, mollies, and swordtails. Don't keep them with any fish that could fit them in their mouths. They can be kept with other shrimp like a mono shrimp. They typically get along with basically everybody that's around the same size as them. I keep mine with these black neon tetras and other small tetras and live bearers. Now, something you need to know is that they will eat baby fish. For example, they do eat baby guppies and baby platies, especially the newborn ones where they're really tiny and easy to grab. If you keep them in a community tank with fish like guppies, sometimes you will find some of the babies get eaten by fish as well. Fish like guppies are a great way to keep the population under control, but if you're not looking for that, if you're looking to sell them or to keep the whole batch of fry, then I would recommend either providing plenty of hiding spaces, live plants, decorations, rocks. The best way to guarantee the survival of all is to keep them in a shrimp only tank. You'll see the population rise very rapidly as these shrimp are very prolific breeders. They're going to be breeding all over the place. The 8th thing to know is to keep them in tank sizes of 5 gallons or more. Cherry shrimp can technically live in any tank size, even jars, but for most beginners, a larger tank of at least 5 to 10 gallons is going to keep the waters more stable. If you're a new shrimp keeper, get yourself at least a 5-gallon tank to start with. Anything smaller than that would be difficult to keep stable. It's just like how it's easier to change the temperature of a small cup rather than a large bucket. You'll want to keep them in slightly larger tanks if you want to keep the parameters stable. And for these shrimp, it's very important, especially if you're looking to breeding them. A larger tank will also mean less frequent water changes in general, as the water will be less affected. So to give you guys an example, a 10-gallon tank is capable of supporting up to 100 red cherry shrimp. That's a lot to keep if you think about it. 5 gallons could optimally support up to 50, but I wouldn't go any lower than that as it's going to be harder to keep the water clean and stable. The majority of shrimp keepers buy out about 10 to 15 when they start out, and that could quickly multiply. The 7th thing to know is filtration, and this also includes substrate, but we're going to talk about filters first. Providing good filtration is a great way to ensure the shrimp's health, as filters house beneficial bacteria that are helpful to the shrimp. What you need to be aware of though is if you have something like a hang-on back filter, you'll need to cover up the intake to prevent any shrimp from getting sucked in. This is more common in baby shrimp, but to prevent those issues, I would either get a pre-filter sponge, which is one of those sponges where you could just attach them onto the intake, or another option is to buy a sponge filter. Those things are completely shrimp safe and you won't have to worry about anyone dying from it. Usually for breeder tanks where they breed tons and tons of shrimp, sponge filters are what they use. They're a simple and great method to keep the water filtered and beneficial bacteria thriving. I currently do not keep any filters for my shrimp, and I do this by providing tons of live aquarium plants, a healthy environment, and low stocking. And now onto the substrate. The substrate in your fish tank is the most natural filter as they break down organic waste and house beneficial bacteria. You're gonna hear a lot of people say otherwise, but cherry shrimp can live in basically any substrate you give them. This includes soil, sand, gravel, or even no substrate at all. Cherry shrimp are not picky when it comes to what substrate you use. I keep some of mine in sand and some others in gravel, and they do fine in each of them. Just know that there is no specific substrate you will need from cherry shrimp, as these are part of the Neocaridina family and are not that picky when it comes to this. There are some species that will need a specific substrate for softer acidic water, but it's definitely not a necessity for these guys. Any substrate will work. And that brings me to my next point, which is number 6, and that is to keep live aquarium plants. Live plants are going to be one of the most beneficial things you could get for your shrimp. Firstly, they make your tank look very natural, like it's a natural habitat out there in nature. Plants will not only filter your water, but they're also going to provide the shrimp with a great environment. A planted tank will also absorb all the waste that is produced by the shrimp, and the plants themselves will use that waste and grow. Plants also give the shrimp something to climb on and explore. Just makes the tank so much more interesting, and this is especially true if you are trying to breed the shrimp. Plants are a must-have if you want to breed shrimp and raise the fry in there, because those plants are going to be so helpful. Some plants I would recommend, first off, would be Java moss. These are great aquarium plants. They got lots of crooks and crannies for the baby shrimp to hide in. I've seen shrimp babies in Java moss hiding many times. Here you can see one of my blue dream shrimp babies hiding in there and eating away at whatever it could find. So Java moss is a great plant. It also grows really fast. Another good one is guppy grass. Guppy grass, just like Java moss, is an extremely fast grower. This plant will spread across your tank in no time. You could see that in my 20-gallon here. It just grows super fast, provides great shelter. Guppy grass could be used in virtually any breeding setup. They provide an amazing environment, and the plant itself is like unkillable. And number 5 is breeding. Cherry shrimp breeding is fairly direct. They are not hard to breed at all. I'm going to show you how. Cherry shrimp will breed rapidly as long as there are good tank conditions and a healthy diet. Pretty much the same as guppies and live bears. All I did to breed them was throw them in my planted tanks, keep the parameters stable, feed them plenty, don't introduce any predators, make them feel safe, and they will breed. And live aquarium plants are absolutely essential if you just want to see any breeding behaviors. Hiding space in general just makes them feel safe in releasing their fry. That's pretty much all there is. A few tips to breed the shrimp. First off, you might want to get at least around 5 or 6 at the pet store, just so that we could guarantee that there's some males and females. Well, that doesn't really guarantee, but it increases your chances. Also, you want to feed not just a lot, but a varied diet. Cherry shrimp, just like all other animals, need lots of different things to eat to stay healthy, and this could include fruits, frozen foods, dried foods, algae wafers. Be sure to feed them a healthy diet and they won't disappoint. The 4th piece of advice is to add botanicals. Cherry shrimp originate in freshwater streams in Asia, where there's lots of fallen leaves and organic matter in the water. The way we could replicate this is by adding botanicals. Some examples are leaf litter, twigs, and driftwood. These things help release tannins in the water and lower the pH. Cherry shrimp love botanicals. They like exploring them and chewing away at any organic matter they could find, and adding them does have a lot of benefits to your shrimp's health. They're also going to create this nice riverbed look in your tank. Stuff like Indian almond leaves will break down over time, and it creates a great source of food for baby shrimp. It's also going to provide a natural shelter for them to hide and avoid getting eaten. The 3rd thing you should know is what types of algae they eat. Algae that cherry shrimp can eat include hair algae, green and brown algae. They also consume some early stages of blackbeard algae, but not as much if it is widespread. The key thing here is that prevention is always better than cure. What I recommend you do is add the shrimp before any algae problems arise. They also eat decaying plant matter and excess food that falls to the bottom, which reduces the nutrients that allow algae to grow. However, they won't eat any green spot algae or any type of harder algae, as this is a bit too hard for them to nibble on, and so they just won't bother it at all. So basically, cherry shrimp are more effective at combating softer algae types rather than harder varieties, and to get rid of algae more effectively, I would consider adding a group of shrimp rather than a few, as these are very tiny creatures. They only grow up to around, I would say, 1 inch max. Algae that cherry shrimp can eat are a great natural food source for them. Algae is not only beneficial to your fish tank when there's not too many, but also provides a great source of food for the cherry shrimp. Number 2 is going to be to focus on keeping water parameters stable. Cherry shrimp are sensitive creatures in a way, and they're especially sensitive to water parameter changes, so like changes in temperature and changes in pH. Those are some of the things you'll want to look out for. You want to keep it stable. These shrimp tend to do well in temperatures of around 70 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit and a pH from 6.5 to 8. Anywhere within that range is usually safe. What you need to make sure is to not suddenly change the temperature or the pH. These shrimp are not as hardy as some other species. They could just get really stressed, so it's always a good idea to look out after ammonia and nitrate buildup. Because cherry shrimp are so sensitive, water changes should be done no more than 25% each time. My current tanks are at a point where I don't need to do any water changes at all, as they are fully self-sustaining. I also would make sure to acclimate the shrimp before adding them to a fish tank. You don't necessarily need to drip acclimate, but at least put the bag in there and slowly release them from there. Once they are settled in a tank for a while, cherry shrimp become pretty hardy. And the final thing I want you guys to know about cherry shrimp is their lifespan. So cherry shrimp in general do not live very long. Their lifespan's about 1 to 2 years, sometimes maybe 3 years. If you set your temperature higher, like in the warmer range, it will decrease the shrimp's lifespan due to higher metabolism. But if you lose a few cherry shrimp once in a while here and there, it's probably just because of old age, as these shrimp do not live very long. The good news is that they breed really fast, so you're gonna have plenty of them. But in general, these shrimp can live from 1 to 2 years. Now I want to quickly give a bonus, which is to choose good cherry shrimp. When you're at the pet store, it's really important to choose good quality cherry shrimp and to see if they're healthy. Now, one way is to see if the shrimp are active or not. Look around in the tank, see if they're swimming around. If a lot of them are just hiding in the corner and just not moving, I wouldn't get those. I would get the ones that are constantly swimming around, searching for food, eating algae. I would also look at their colors. Cherry shrimp should be red, if not bright red. Make sure they are vibrant in color. A shrimp's color is a great indicator of their health and reflects the quality of shrimp you're getting. When shrimp are stressed, their color does tend to fade away. So by choosing brightly colored shrimp that are active in the tank, you're doing yourself a great favor. If you get them online, make sure you're getting them from a credible source. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.